Welcome to another edition of Trail Runner Nation. My name is Don Freeman.
And I'm Scott Warr, and today we're going to start a new series of episodes that we are going to learn from other endurance sports. And this, like many ideas, came as Don and I were running up a section of hill called Stagecoach on our normal loop. And typically, the ideas are not that good because our oxygen level in our brains is not very high. We're out of breath, but we thought, hey, I think this has some merit. Is that how you remember it, Don?
That's exactly how I remember it. In fact, that's how this podcast started on that very hill. We came up with the podcast idea some 640 episodes ago. But this one, I think this is a great idea, Scott. It's called Endurance Off the Trail is the way I think we called it at the time.
And our first episode is with Stephen Nyman. Now, if this was called Downhill Skier Nation, we wouldn't have to introduce Stephen Nyman, but it's not. It's Trail Runner Nation. Many of you that are into alpine skiing know Stephen Nyman because he has spent 21 years on the World Cup circuit. He is one of the most dominant downhill racers here in the United States, and he has 3 World Cup wins, 11 World Cup podiums. He was ranked 6th place in the world in 2015, went to 3 Olympics, missed the 4th. We'll get into why he missed the 4th, hopefully in this episode. But he started all the way back in 2002. Now, Don knows the name Stephen Nyman because I've mentioned it. I like to name drop every once in a while. I've known Stephen, I think, for 35 years, Stephen. I think I met you back in 1988. How old were you in 1988? Like 6?
6 years old. You were a coach of mine.
6 years
old. You were
old.
a part of my success, Scott.
We're just glad that you remembered my name and said yes to the podcast, Stephen.
Hey,
what?
Basically, where we grew up, Sundance, where I met you, my parents would just let us out, roam on the mountain. I have 3 brothers, and it was basically the ski instructors like you that kind of babysat us and made sure you could pick us out of the trees and keep us alive, and you helped us succeed.
There goes the Nyman brothers, is what we would say in the chair as we were going up and they were taking off, flying off the edge of a cliff. There goes the Nyman brothers again. But we're glad to have you on here. Now, if you're thinking downhill skiing, typical downhill World Cup race lasts what, Stephen? About 1.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, less than 3 minutes, right?
Usually about 2 to 2.5 minutes.
2 to 2.5 minutes. You're thinking, what does this have to do with endurance? Well, we're going to find out today, not only about endurance, but also the mental side of performing at a high level and recovery, injuries, and all that sort of stuff. I want to start off first. Let's get to the mental aspect. So the alpine downhill race is 2.5 to 3 minutes. The margin of error from first place to 10th place is what? Less than 2 seconds, 3 seconds?
2/10, 3/10.
It's been a while since I've watched a few races, Stephen.
Yes, it's very tight. It tends to be incredibly tight. My first World Cup win was by 200ths. It's an amazing sport because there's so many people from different shapes, sizes, where they've come from. We're all dealing with the same gravity, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and you have to learn to really maximize your strengths, capitalize on those strengths, and hold on during those areas of weakness. There's the best downhiller in the world is Beat Voits. This kid is 5'8", 5'9", maybe, but he's 190 pounds, just this little bowling ball. And I'm 6'4", 220, 225. So it's funny. He and I traded podium positions. I had a streak of 4 podiums in a row at one time, and he was always right there with me. I think we were like 300ths off over those 4 races.
Wow.
And I'm like, we are not alike at all, but you're dealing with the same aspects and you have to really figure out how to maximize all those different parts of ski racing, if it be aerodynamics, if it be your strengths. I was a very good glider, which is the flat parts. I knew how to carry speed on the flat parts, get in aerodynamic position, and I'd really take off. But the steep technical parts, that was my weakness. I had to hang on and kind of just be solid in those areas. So you have to really learn to understand yourself, and you have to. I like thinking about maximizing my superpower. It's I would see those opportunities arise in front of me, and I had to capitalize on those, and that's where I'd separate myself, and the other parts I'd just kind of hold on, not lose any time, and then when it got to my time, I'd push for more. And
Well, that's fascinating, because we do some of that stuff trail running, right? If you're a good downhill or a good climber, you've got to pick your superpower, maximize it, and hang on to the stuff that you're not quite, accomplished with. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that excited me, because I don't know much about wintertime sport. I know it's colder in the wintertime, so that is my background really for this. So go ahead, Stephen.
that's deep right there. It is colder in
Yeah,
the
thanks.
wintertime. The so the thing with endurance trail running is, yeah, maybe 2.5 hours or 5 hours. Ours is 2.5 minutes, but you're analyzing all these things at such a quick pace. And I don't know if you go out and pre-run a lot of these runs, these 100-mile runs, or if you're just kind of doing them and hoping to stay acute mentally throughout the process. But to us, we get on the course beforehand. We get to inspect. We usually have about hour and a half, 2 hours to hike up and down the course. You start at the top, you slide down, you check out a turn, you hike back up, you look at the view coming into that turn. There's a lot of blind rolls, transitions in terrain, changing snow conditions. You memorize all of that, and you really ingrain it in your brain and have this idea and picture of what you're going to do, how you're going to accomplish it, and you just brainwash yourself into believing, and you have that full conviction of what's possible. I look at several different lines, knowing if I mess that up, I'm coming in down low. All right, this is how I'll adapt. If I'm coming in high, if I'm on point, whatever it is, it's all been ingrained to where it should be second nature. But a lot of that second nature, the natural movements, everything that's going to occur in my technique and in my skiing comes from training throughout the summer and throughout the winter, whenever those opportunities arise.
Okay, Stephen. So I have a couple of questions for the non wintertime sports people, and so to try to get us up to speed. So you're the group of people that put the skis on, and you get in the top of this ramp, and a bell goes, and you go down the mountain and go through these slalom things. How fast do you go?
Downhill is the fastest event. I'm a downhill and super G skier. Downhill is the fastest. Then there's super G. Then there's giant slalom and slalom. Slalom's the little turns. Giant slalom is like normal sized turns. Super G is big open turns, and downhill is a turn straight, a turn straight. I tend to excel at downhill. I've done well in super G as well. But I qualified on the US ski team as a slalom skier. So I have an array of skills. So yes, they set these courses up. There's usually 70, 80 people that race these races, and they determine our start order according to world rank. And then you get your turn and you go. And we tend to ruin the mountain because we like the snow icy. Before these World Cup races occur, we get the fire hoses out, we water down that slope, we make that thing a sheet of ice. I have a guy that travels around the world with me. His name's Leo Musi, and he is my ski technician. He sharpens my edges. These things are razor blades. He waxes my skis. We have different, on each ski, we have different grinds, they're called. It's essentially the tread on a tire. And those different grinds function in different ways according to the snow conditions. If it's a really cold temperature and the crystals of the snow are very fine, we have a very fine grind. If it's wetter, it's a deeper grind that's kind of channeling the water away. There's a lot of heat and friction that occur as we're going fast. You asked how fast we go. The fastest race
Yeah.
is in Wengen, Switzerland. We hit over 100 miles an hour down the Honningschuss, which is about 2 minutes into the course. Your legs are burning and you're trying to get in this tight little tuck position, which is a little egg you get your body into, and you're just shooting down this pitch. I actually crashed at the bottom of that pitch a few years ago, going about 90 miles an hour, but
Oh, wow.
I was okay. So
Hey, I've got a couple more questions. So you're going down this hill and you're feeling this 2 minutes into this thing, and you've got your legs are just aching. And this is about some endurance here too. How much force is on your legs? I remember watching something like pre-Olympics type thing, and they were talking about it's like doing a 600-pound squat for 3 minutes straight. I mean, how much force is on your legs?
there's a lot of force. We have over 1,000 pounds of force. Like there's the vibrations, there's the G forces. When we set up a turn, we are locking that edge in, and we're trying to carve above the fall line. So we get the ski initiated, then you hit kind of gravity, and then once you start resisting gravity, the forces are very hard. But you have a pretty long leg, so it's not like you're getting low. You will make a mistake, and sometimes you get squatty, and that really stresses yourself out. But you're similar to running. You're trying to be very efficient as you're going down the hill. You want to, we call it stacking the bones. You want to have an efficient body position, but you also want to remain aerodynamic. You want to be able to charge. You want to really move. It's not easy. We are 400-meter sprinters. We're 800-meter sprinters. The moment we kick out of the gate, it is all out, full gas the whole way down the mountain. But it's massive, massive pressures, vibrations. Have you ever stood on one of those vibration plates in the gym?
Yes.
It
It's 72
wears you
degrees.
out
Yeah.
quick. So
Yeah.
put that on there with 1,000 pounds on your back, doing these little squats, and somebody's punching you, trying to knock you over. That's essentially what we're doing, while balancing on a thin metal edge, wearing spandex. So
I can see why you love the sport for 21 years, being on the top of the game. That sounds great.
Hey, Steven. Oh, go ahead.
It's to me, it's an ever-changing platform. It's never the same. It's not like basketball where you're on this reoccurring court. The snow is always changing, the elements are always changing, the course is always changing, the terrain's always changing. You're always analyzing what's going on, what's ahead of you, how did you do right then? What are you going to do to adapt coming up? I've always said skiing develops superhumans, and just naturally the sport, it develops your confidence. It's really cool. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and to teach them to ski right now, they learn to balance. They learn to become independent. They learn on the bunny hill, the really flat, easy hill. Then they see something a little steeper. Oh, Dad, can I try that? Yeah, sure, go for it. And they're like, I don't know, but then they do it, and they're like, I did it. You know, it develops that independence and that courage. But then you're around a bunch of people that are moving in the big resorts. You are analyzing the terrain, the snow. There's a feeling. You're facing those forces, that torque on your knees, the twisting of those long sticks and skis through time. I think it just puts so much stress on your body, yet you have to be aware of what's going on. It just, in a very round, balanced way, it develops humans, and that are pretty impressive people. I don't know a lot of ski racers that are pretty out there, like clueless out there. They're quite aware, analytical engineers.
You know, I want to get into that, because you brought up a very good point that I think transitions over to this very successful trail and ultra runners, and that is, as you're inspecting the course, you're looking at all of the different possibilities of what can happen. You're looking for the fastest line through a gate section, or you're trying to find out, okay, where can I maximize my superpower? But then you said something that I think is very important. What happens if I don't get the line going into this gate like I want to, the fastest line? What if I missed that line and I'm down here in this other part of the soft snow? What am I going to do? And you play through all of those scenarios. And you said something, you said you plan for those so that when it comes time, it's instinctive, or it's just natural of what you're going to do to get out of that position. So it's not, how many times in your career did you go from top to bottom without a mistake?
Very, very rarely. I mean,
Very rarely.
There's like one race that I know I'm like, that was
You
close to
nailed it.
perfect. That was about it. Other than that, there's all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah, most of the time you're correcting mistakes that you're making dynamically through the whole race. So how did you develop that? Watching you as a young teenager go to some of the ski races that we used to go to, and we watched the very best. The very best were the ones that could fix the mistakes. How did you develop that throughout your career?
A lot of it comes from training and understanding what you're trying to achieve, understanding what is skiing, what is ski technique, what is racing, what are the equipment on my feet, what is that intended to do? Is it developed properly? I'm at a place to where I give that feedback to the company. Fisher is my ski brand. And I would say, this is what I want to feel, and this isn't providing it. Maybe we add a little more metal here, less torsional stiffness, more torsional stiffness, whatever it is, we'd change it. And I'd be testing all these different skis, trying to figure out, trying to basically bring that confidence to myself, knowing that what's on my feet is going to react the way I'm telling it to react. But as a kid, it's just mileage. It's testing yourself in all kinds of different terrain, all kinds of different scenarios. It's not just getting in the gates and training and racing the gates. It's like you said, we were just these little boys roaming around Sundance, jumping off cliffs, getting caught in the trees, testing yourself, challenging your surroundings, and really challenging yourself to where you're adapting on the fly. You learn to have that balance through all those different scenarios that you're putting yourself through. And then once you understand racing, it's all it is really just continual momentum as you're going down the hill. And say you miss a mark and that turn was a little off, if you try to get back on point, you're just going to resist gravity more, and then you'll be back on point and you'll slow yourself down quite a bit. But if you just kind of not panic and get close to that point, and then close to that point, and then all of a sudden you're back on a couple turns later, that's how you keep that momentum going. No panic, trusting in yourself, trusting in your approach, and just really rolling with it is how you go about. I have a lot of trail runner friends, and they talk about their races, and I don't get how they can just stay there for that amount of time. But they're like, oh yeah, I took a 2-mile detour. I kind of took a wrong turn, but then I realized, and then I came back. I'm like, man, it's like whatever, 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, whatever. That would be like 15 minutes of just kind of slogging, thinking, oh, that was a bad move, here we go. But you can see if somebody got ahead of you and how you can adapt. I don't know the exact rules. Can you cut through certain areas, or do you have to hit certain points? But when I go running with them, your approach, I think where people really separate themselves is downhill. It blows my mind how fast you trail runners go downhill. I'm 220, 225. I'd go train with my buddies sometimes and run up the mountain, but once we got to the downhill part, I'd just be kind of like stepping down over here, stepping. I had a lot of weight going down, and I was like, Brian, you're flying, man. And he's like, oh, I don't have as much weight on you. I got like 40 pounds less than you. And I'm like, 40 pounds? How much do you weigh? He's like, 140. I'm like, how about 80 pounds, man? But to see that ability to analyze where you're putting your feet, is that rock loose? Do you think it's loose? Do you think it's not? Like, you're just like moving down that mountain, hauling, and it's impressive. And that's the same approach to skiing. Is I've put myself through so many different scenarios. We travel to Chile, we travel to New Zealand, Argentina in the summers, and we are seeking out the snow and trying to find those conditions that are similar to the World Cup, to where we can just get more and more mileage under our belts, to where we have that confidence and feeling, and just creating good habits to where we can just let go when it comes to racing.
Yeah, one of the things you said about the downhiller group is that they're all analytical. They're engineers on skis. They're decision makers, and that's one of the sayings that we have, or at least we've heard and repeat, is that the best trail runners are the best decision makers. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like you're gaining part of that just from practice experience. I've seen this before. It's worked for me. I'm going to do it again. It's just the being accomplished is having enough time on skis and seeing enough things and trying it, see if it fails, and being quick to make that assessment halfway in the middle of 100 mile an hour coming into something that's coming in front of you. You don't have much time to make decisions. It's got to happen instantly. You've got to have a pretty good head on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you might argue that you don't have a good head on your shoulders because you launched yourself down this mountain. But since you're going down, you've got to think quick.
Exactly. There may be some screws loose as well, but to me, I look at it's markers. I have these pictures in my head, and I find those points, and that's where I know if I initiate my turn there and I move my energy to that point, then I'm instantly searching for the next point and the next point and the next point. In 2016, we went to South Korea for the Olympic trials, not trials, we tried out the new Olympic hill that was going to be in 2018 in Pyeongchang, I can't remember. Anyway, went there, and this is part of my 4-podium streak. This is a total new hill. Nobody had skied it before. It was really cool. Everybody was at an even playing field. And I like the snow. It's very dry there, very responsive, tons of terrain, lots of side hills, undulations. I like the terrain. I'm very good at staying connected to the snow or going over these blind rolls with confidence. But because nobody had seen it, I was like, I'm going to just take my phone out, and I just get down there and take a photo of every kind of key point that I have in my mind. And that allowed me, instead of just having that hour and a half to inspect the course, that allowed me to just go through my phone over and over again. And I got to re-inspect the course and kind of just brainwash myself again and again and again. And our second or third there, I can't remember, but it was a really great race. And my execution was fantastic, except for that last turn. I crushed the top, but there's that one turn, Scott. I was leading the race to that and ended up second or third, can't remember. But it's all about conviction and belief. But there's a lot of people that do believe in themselves that don't have the abilities too, I went through some dark times in the beginning. In the beginning of my career, I actually shot to the top quite quick. My first full seasons on the World Cup, 2005, 2006, I went to race a couple races, see how I do, and then expected to go back to the NorAm Tour, just kind of get my butt kicked on the World Cup, go back to the NorAm Tour. But I started off quick. I was 17th in Lake Louise, 22nd in Beaver Creek, Uh, Gardena, I crashed, but I knew what I needed to do. I was like, I can win here, and I won the next year. Then I went to Bormio, which is deep, dark, very, very intimidating, and I ended up 26, I think. To be top 30 is good, and so they just kept me rolling on the World Cup, and I ended up getting fourth in Garmisch. I almost won the Olympics. Like I was like really fast in the training runs and messed up the race run, but that was a whole mental thing. That a good experience that helped me learn. But I qualified for World Cup finals, which is your top 25 in the world, in my first year, full year on the World Cup, which was very, very cool. Then the next year I went in the World Cup and I won and got on a few podiums. And then the next year I had a podium. And then it was like 3, 4 years of darkness. Like it was, I got big, I got strong, the equipment didn't work with me. Stuff just kind of went sideways. I didn't really know how to stay on the top of the game. And I had to kind of reinvent myself. But once I figured out what the issues were, it was game on again. And I forgot the whole point of the story.
Oh,
But
I see a question there though, Stephen, is how, and this is for all athletes or even, business or parenting. Things aren't always going to be going the way that you want them to, and you might find some dark periods. How do you get through that with the hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel? How do you get through there?
You help me. We were talking about people who have belief, but
Yeah.
because I had succeeded before, I knew I could win. I knew I could be at the top, but I had to figure those pieces out. What were the issues? What was I doing right? What was I doing wrong? Um, and I had to, like I said, I got big and strong. I was overpowering the boots. I had to come up with a different plastic compound that really resisted the forces I was putting into the skis. Um, and we had some skis that were they changed the regulations to the skis. There's a governing body to ski racing called FIS, and they changed the side cut, which is how wide the tip can be, the waist, and the tail. And when you tip that parabolic shape on side, the ski actually carves for you. And race skis are very straight, actually. But they changed the regulations on that, and we had some issues. And I was looking at all these other brands, and they were just so dominant. And we were okay in sections, but would just lose our butts in other sections. I'm just like, what is going on? And so I looked at all the other brands, looked at the shapes on their skis, looked at our skis. You can kind of see what's going on in some skis, and I'm like, let's blow it all up. Everybody basically left Fisher on the speed side, but I stuck around. I was just like, I'm the only one left. Let's blow it all up, and let's create something that works. And so we did, and those skis that we created were lasted me like 4 or 5 years. They were so fast, and it's still essentially what we're skiing on today. Um, and I noticed looking at on the course, we have a bunch of splits, sections where they chop your time, see if you're ahead or behind, or and a lot of those splits have themes. Maybe at the end of a steep section, the split ends, so you saw how fast you were in the steep section. Now it's a flat section, and then ending at the flat section, you got to see, okay, I was X fast in the flats. So I noticed when I was on a side hill on the flats, I would lose so much time, and I'm the best glider in the world, and I was just like, why am I losing so much time on these side hills? And I started looking at our skis, and we had a big shovel, which is the tip. The tip was pretty wide, so that was constantly grabbing as I was going across, whereas other brands had a skinnier tip and a little wider tail. And then I noticed in another brand of skis that they had like a line down the center of their tip, and they actually had taken a bandsaw and chopped it, and it allows the tip to kind of bend like this. So when it is digging in, it's not actually really grabbing hard. It gets that initiation, And then once you really put the pressure on the ski, underneath the foot is what's really, really solid. So you're just, that constant like touch of the tip isn't dragging. So we created our own version of that, which was really cool. And you play with like thin pieces of rubber, different rubber compounds, different woods, different thicknesses of metal, where that's placed in the ski. It's very complex, but what we came up with was quite incredible. And I knew when those skis would come out and I'd put them on my feet, I'm like, it's on. It's game day, baby. And my technician, we'll get 10, 15 pairs of skis per discipline a year, and you have to kind of work them. There's no true science to if they're fast or not. You just kind of build these things, and some of them blossom, some of them don't. Sometimes the wood that they use isn't as lively as the other wood, but they try and keep it within a realm. And you just know, like, these things blossom, these things are fast, and when they're taken out, you're like, these are my babies. He believes in me. Let's go.
Stephen, I have a question for you. Before a big event, or for us, before a race, I would like to know how much mental preparation that you do, that as you might lie there the week before and close your eyes at night when you're in bed. How often do you rehearse and look at the course and run scenarios through your mind? How much mental prep do you do and exercising? Because I think there's probably some similarities between your group and our cousins, you guys and we're your cousins. So how much similarity in that mental prep?
A lot. There's a lot of 90% of our races are reoccurring. The gates are roughly in the same spot. This is downhill. Super G's can be totally different. GS and slalom different, but it's still turn after turn after turn. There's that feeling. There's the movement of your hip. There's the way your upper body's facing. There's getting over the outside ski. The tempo of the ski when you press into the front of your boot, when that shovel really engages. Those are the things that are ingrained inside of me that I feel when I lay down and close my eyes and rehearse these courses. I can run all these courses in my head and believe I'm winning. And I talk to a lot of old downhillers, and they're like, I'm still there, but now I'm 50, so I'm not there. But like, there's just this confidence, and what's cool is we're a band of brothers. Like, we suffer, and our lives are on the line. Like, you can die. I have teammates that have broken their necks, that have destroyed their legs, their knees, their backs, and people have died. I have a good friend who died a few years ago because he slid off the course, went under the net into the trees, and David Poisson, French guy, but we're all a band of brothers, and when you meet a downhiller, you're like, I know you. I know what you've been through. And trail running's the same. Like, you guys suffer. You guys can go to places that are just foreign to 99% of the world. Like, it's so cool. And you probably are the same way. You're just like,
it's that shared risk, and this shared suffering that brings the community together, that make people bond and become that band of brothers you're talking about. And we've talked about it before, where there's high risk, there seems to be that high cohesion, whether it's mountain climbing or maybe surfing or downhill skiing or running long distances in the heat and being out there by yourself. There is that unity that happens. The bigger the risk, the more we get together.
And that's what makes it special. And in 2014, that was when I came out of my dark times. That summer, I received a boot, and the moment I got on this boot, I was actually at a photo shoot for Spider in Zermatt, and with my technician, I was always searching for something, like, I knew I had this feeling, and it's not there right now. And I went to Zermatt, put on this boot, and I was like, Leo, I called him up. I'm like, this is it. Like, I feel it. And he's like, whatever. Like, again, you feel it. Because sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is a great ski. This is great. And I'm like, no, like, this is it. And we had just been in Chile, and I was kind of getting my butt kicked. Went to Zermatt for a photo shoot, went back to Chile, and I was destroying everyone. And he's like, you mean business. You were correct. Like, it was like, I should have believed you. And so that summer, I was crushing it. A couple of my teammates were crushing it, and I was like, the whole team wasn't doing that well. We were all kind of in a dark zone, but I knew we were going to do well. And so I went to the Levi's outlet here in Park City, and I found this jean jacket that had a big American flag on the back, and I just said, all right, let's write American downhiller on the backsides. Marco Sullivan, a teammate of mine, his web address was americandownhiller.com. That's now moved to ski camps. We help support kids and develop the sport. But I was like, American downhiller, that's cool, man. I just wrote it on the vest, kind of in flames, and I brought it to the first race, and I said, best guy gets to wear this, and just for the week, and you pass it on every week, just as something to kind of motivate the boys. And Marco ended up third. And then I went to Beaver Creek. I ended up third. Then I went to Gardena. I won. Then Travis won in Santa Catarina. And it was just like, boom, 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 it's on. And I was like, okay, like, you got to be top 5 to wear this. I raised the level. Initially, it was like, best guy gets it. Now I was like, no, you got to be top 5 if you want to wear this. And inside, you write your name and your result, kind of on the chest pocket here. And so there's just this long list of names. We went on like a 3-4 year streak of just really, really good skiing across the team. And it's not the vest. The vest didn't cause that skiing, but it was just kind of like a fun little motivator to bring us together and shoot for more, shoot for a higher level. Because the World Cup Tour you're in Europe. Like, it's not a North American sport. We go over there, we're staying in hotels, we're hauling our crap all around. Those guys, they show up with a little bag, stay for 3-4 days, then go home for a few days. And like, they have a base. Their families are there. A lot of those guys have kids in their 20s, and like, as Americans, we're like, at least me, I raced until I was 41. You're kind of questioning. You're like, man, I'm old. Like, I'm a little behind the game here. All these people have families and a life outside of ski racing. And I actually noticed that and took to that probably around 2012, 2013. I didn't fly home. A lot of the guys fly back and forth and go home when they can go home. Or I just said, I'm living in Europe. I'm sticking to the apartment, and then once I had kids, I just moved the family over there, and it just allowed me to, I took kind of a page out of cycling, just allowed me to establish there, have my stuff there, and it made life much better. And then when everybody's getting jet lagged flying home for a week and flying back, and then they're jet lagged when they arrive, I went to visit Florence. I went to ski St. Anton. I went to Tarifa. Like, I got to experience the world over there. So, yeah, I lived a really cool life, but it's simply.
It sounds cool. It sounds cool, except for the 100-mile-an-hour stuff. That would be me not wanting to live that life. But I've got this question for you, and I'm not sure if it's a question or not, but I thought about it when you were talking about the jacket. And we acknowledged that the jacket wasn't magical. It didn't make people win. But I think something that's similar between us, I would like to ask this: belief. How important is belief that you can dominate, or that you can win, or that you can succeed? Where does belief fit into this crazy equation of performance?
So I worked with a sports psychologist, Craig Manning, who really kind of opened my eyes to this world. And for a while, sports psychologists to me it was just funny. They're like, oh, I'm like, man, I'm having trouble focusing. And they're like, well, sit in front of the TV, read a book, and listen to music at the same time and just get used to it. I'm just like, I don't know about that. Craig, he was like, he was all about the making things second nature, ingraining it in your subconscious. But to do that, you have to have an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. What is it you're trying to achieve? What are the steps to get there? And I knew all this, like micro goals, macro goals, like creating a plan to get to that point. But he's like, you focus on 2 to 3 things a day, and those are highly reoccurring until you feel like it has become a habit. And so every day I just write 2 to 3 things. What are those focuses on the hill? And what did you do well? What do you need to improve on? And just kind of redo that every day. And that can be in ski racing, that can be in life. Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And so I started doing that, and I liked it. But then I was like, I need my team to be a part of this, because I noticed I'd go down the hill and one coach would tell me one thing, another coach would tell me another thing, another coach would tell me another thing, and all of a sudden you're like, I got like 8 different opinions right now, and I'm all over the place. I'm going nowhere. So I just did it in a Google Doc, and I just write my 3 focuses, my positive and negatives throughout that day, and I shared it with all of them. I put a little icon on their home screen so they can just tap on it. They know where I'm at. That holds me accountable to performing. Like I can go down the training course, and I can just highly repeat and ingrain poor habits. Like that's kind of the American way. It's like, here's your course, figure it out, let's go, cowboy up, And it's like, no, like we truly don't get that many opportunities to really refine our skills. What are you trying to accomplish today? And now let's every single turn execute that, make it happen. Let's go. And so by sharing that, holds me accountable. Everybody's on the same page. The momentum's moving in the right direction. If I'm not doing what I'm saying I'm going to do, or if I've kind of set improper goals, we talk about that and they bring me back online. And then I really started succeeding, and that just made it much more meaningful. The team was a team. My coaches were like, the celebrations at the finish area were just so fantastic because they all felt part of that movement. And I thought that was super, super powerful.
I think that it's interesting, and probably something that we as spectators don't see unless you're in the community, is it's beyond the U.S. ski team. You're part of the U.S. ski team. Those are not just your brothers. You mentioned your French brother that unfortunately passed away. It's the whole group that you're racing against, those 70 people that you're racing against every weekend, that you've become friends and brothers with. Can you talk a little bit about that community and competing against your brothers? How does that work?
There's some guys that have little rifts with other guys and whatnot, but I'm friends with all the group. Yeah, they have weird little habits or whatnot, or they're just kind of a little funky, their personalities, but
that's life. That's life, pal.
I take them for what they are. They're great. They're funny, good people, and they make me laugh. And there's a lot lost in translation, and I like that. I like the foreign aspect of everything. But just knowing, like at the top of the hill, some guys are very focused and intense and don't want to talk. But to me, I'm just like, I want to cheer everybody on. I want to fist bump and say good luck, and like, it's on. We're even, partner. Like, let's see who's got the best stuff today. To me, that's I feel like is the best attitude. It's really when we, not like I mentioned my team moving together, like when we as a group are moving together, when we're trying to heighten the level of the sport, like that's really, really cool. And when that success and when those levels get pushed higher, it's a fun thing to witness and be a part of instead of going at it alone and really isolating yourself to where, yeah, you succeed and yeah, you did incredible, but you're kind of on this island. And um, I never, I don't want to say I never liked that feeling. I don't like the idea of that because that's why I approach things the way I approach it.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen, 21 years on the World Cup, 41 years old. You just recently retired. Talk to us a little bit about longevity. 21 years on the World Cup is not common. That's a pretty long time to be competing at that level. You've had some pretty amazing injuries that could have just it would have been really, really easy for you to say, okay, I've had a good long career, I'm done. But you continue to have a very long career and push through injuries. Ultra runners, trail runners, I don't care if you're a 10K runner, we deal with injuries all the time. And sometimes you can be very demotivated by those injuries and just say, you know what, I'm done with running. Or, you know what, I'm never going to come back from this this injury, whatever the injury is. How did you push through those injuries, and how did you continue to have the passion for 21 years?
I lost him too. There he is.
Oh,
I'm
the
never
question
gonna,
was,
I'm never going to come
ahead.
back from this injury. That's what you said. That's the
Yeah.
last thing we got.
So the question, Stephen, is how did you persevere through those injuries, come back and have such a long career at such a high level?
It was for other people that I was introduced to really helped me do that. That it wasn't a solo mission, but I'll get into the details. um, the the list of injuries, I've I got a feel down here. All right leg, tib rod insertion removal, left leg, just my fib. I've blown my left ACL, MCL, PCL, lateral compartment, right ACL, torn both Achilles, um, broken I don't know how many ribs. I've had all kinds of back issues, whatever it is. I figured out how to come back from those. Endurance athletes are probably similar to us. I look at a lot of our team and a lot of these athletes. We get to train at the Center of Excellence in Park City, which is the headquarters of the U.S. ski team. That's snowboard, free ski, ski racing, cross country. All the athletes and all these winter sports train together at this venue, and it's super motivating. But we're little golden retrievers, and we're physical specimens that just have to keep moving. And yeah, we'll lift our weights and we'll do our workouts, but then you have the extra time of the day and they're like, what do we do? Oh, let's go play tennis. Oh, let's go hike a mountain. Let's go mountain biking. Let's go, every second of the day is filled with something physical, and they don't throttle back and let their bodies recover. And I learned this the hard way. I did the same thing. Those were my dark years, and that's one of the things I figured out was replace the extracurricular physical stuff with something that isn't so taxing on the body. And once I learned that, and I still try and preach it to a lot of the young kids, it just allowed me to really recover day to day, and that lessened my injuries. But I truly didn't have many just random injuries aside from my back, just to where like I'm in the middle of a turn and something gives out. It's always I hit a wall going 60 miles an hour. I fell off a jump where I flew 120 feet down 3 stories, and stuff like that. It was always a major crash, except for the back. But in 2004, when I broke my tib and had the rod put in, tried skiing with it, had the rod taken out. Part of the protocol to return to snow is single leg squats for 2 minutes. And it's either a minute or 2 minutes. I don't know what it is. I like cheated it in a twist, and it was just like so painful. And I got cleared to ski, and I was skiing, and I'm just like, this sucks. Like this, like I'm not going to be able to ski. This really hurts. I don't really want to race, obviously. I had been told by an ex-girlfriend of mine about this guy in Utah. His name's Craig Bueller, and I didn't really listen. And then somebody else told me about him, and it was Tora Bright, or Tora Bright's sister, who's Olympic gold medalist snowboarder, told me about him, and I was like, whatever, I'll go in. And I walked in there, and what he does is called advanced muscle integration technique, and it's applied kinesiology, but they look at how to isolate every single muscle in the body, if it's functioning or not. Every muscle is related to organs. It has a neurovascular point, neurolymphatic point, chiropractic nerve roots that access and help the communication, Golgi tendon fiber alignment, acupuncture points. It's all with his fingers, and basically the circuit breaker broke, and he's reconnecting the circuit breaker. And I went in there, couldn't do a single leg squat. I walked out of there doing full range, deep single leg squats, pain free. He isolated the certain muscles in my body, figured out what was working, what wasn't, how to rebuild your body, and I was blown away. I'm like, I'm in it. I'm with this guy. Whatever he says, I'm doing. And he brought me back, and I shot to the top quickly. And I was always a physical beast. I was always great in the gym. I progressed quite quickly, and then the equipment couldn't support me. And once I figured that aspect out, that's when I had like the most successful years of my career. But with Bueller, similarly, I got addicted to it. I was just like, I need this. I became dependent on him. If I had any issues, I was like, I got to go in. And he had lived an hour away. So I'd drive like 2 hours a day, just going to see this guy, always back and forth. And I overdid it. And I think just sitting in the car was bad. And that was affecting me. And I was trying to fit too much in. So anyway, I ended up coming up with a system, which was on Wednesdays I go in to see him. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd train really hard. Wednesday was a long endurance day, usually like 2 to 3 hour bike hike, whatever it is. Then after that, I go in and see him, and my body would be fatigued and exposed. He'd work on me. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday's a heavy overall body lift. Then it's core, and then it's a long endurance. The core and overall body, the end of the day is always like some sort of sprinting exercise, whatever, anaerobic, and then aerobic stuff at the end of those days as well. So there's usually 2-a-days on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesday, Saturday were long endurance days. And I'd allow myself to recover on Sunday, go back in Monday, hammer, go back, see Bueller on Wednesday. And that formula I created was very successful. And I flew him to the Olympics. I flew him to the... What?
Was that taking it easy? Was that taking it easy, or is this ramping up? I'm a little lost in the storyline.
Oh, sorry. That's just summer training. I didn't really lay it out, but summer training starts from May all the way till August, mid-August. Then we usually jet to South America or New Zealand to get our ski race training in on the winter snow. So usually plan back from that first entry onto snow in August. I'll have a 3-week block, a week off, 3-week block, a week off, and 3-week block. That's usually all the summer training and weightlifting I do. And once I figured out that system and gave myself time to recover, those weeks off allowed me to catch up on life, feel like I had a normal life. It just kept me sane, and I wasn't like reaching for more all the time. I felt like everything's okay. And instead of every single day, gotta go in the gym, gotta do everything, somebody's getting ahead of me, like that attitude leads to injuries and too much reaching for too much. Cramming 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag is just like, it explodes. And once I learned that, my coach told me that saying, and I was like, okay, That's what I got to live by. That's a good one. So to me, figuring out that system and building my body from a balanced perspective is kind of what I was aiming for. Make sure all my muscles are balanced. I drive to him sometimes. He's like, I find nothing. Everything's good, and I'm building my body up from with every muscle working. That was my approach. There's all kinds of other stuff from blood work to MRIs and urine samples and monitoring my urine every morning. Where's my gas tank at? All this other stuff. But to me, I can always internally just feel that and understand if I need to go or hard or not. But that took years. It took a lot of time to figure that out. But yeah, anyway, when it comes to injuries, there's a lot. And the hard part is, okay, do I want to come back? Like, I'm in a risky sport. This can reoccur easily. And a lot of people wondered why do I keep coming back? And it's the love of the game. It's the constant puzzle that's shifting and changing. Skiing's not this reoccurring thing. It's always something different, and it's always challenging to me. And I would do it as long as I can, like to travel the world, to push myself, to have the mountain close down for me. They basically close down an entire wing of the mountain for us to push our limits and go as fast as possible. And we get to cut the lines. We don't have to wait. Like, we're treated like kings. It's a pretty incredible job.
Stephen, I have a question for you. Based on everything that you've learned through this long career, what would you tell young Stephen that's 20 years old? What advice would you give that 20-year-old Stephen from your perspective?
I thought I was like really focused when I was younger, and then I kind of lost that focus. But it was the lost focus came from more demands. A lot of people wanted me to do things, to be a part of this or that. Now I have a face, now I have a brand, like, let's come to this sales meeting, do this. And I was very interested in everything and wanted to experience everything. And to me, I learned to say no at the right times. Learn what is needed, make that priority, put that in place, then figure out how to juggle everything around that. And I was saying yes to anything and everything because I thought it seemed fun and interesting. But I let it take away from my actual abilities. And the moment you don't perform, a lot of people don't really care about you.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for the time you've taken. Now that you're retired, you're just retired. And by the way, I think I'll try to find the video clip, your last downhill run of your career. Weren't you wearing that jean jacket with the American flag on the back?
Yeah. Got to wear the vest, wore a full Canadian tuxedo, had the denim bottoms, denim top, and got to zip down and hug all my coaches. It was a really, really cool experience because typically guys retire at the World Cup finals and wherever that is, but we rarely have a race in Aspen, and they brought this race to Aspen last year. And once I broke my hand, I was like, it's over. Like, I'll see what I can do. And I couldn't do much. And I was like, I think it's done. I'm going to retire in Aspen in front of the home crowd. And they're like, we can't run you during the race. It'll take too much time, blah, blah, blah. How about you run last? And I'm like, last? Like, nobody's hanging out for the last guy. And I started going down the course, and everybody stayed. And it was incredible. Just big cheers, hometown crowd, family, teammates, everybody waiting in the finish area. It was super meaningful and tons of fun.
I watched that in prep. And it was we actually do sometimes prep, and I wanted to see who this Stephen Nyman was. And it was a very cool trip down that mountain. You stopped and hugged people and high-fived people. It was a real tribute to a great career, that's for sure.
Thank you.
So, Stephen, now that you are retired, I assume that this summer you weren't doing your 6-day summer training regime. Maybe hopefully you were doing a little bit of resting. But what are you filling your time with now? Can you help us understand? I know you have some summer camps and stuff like that. What are you doing?
I actually started uh, like when I hurt myself last year. Man, my body hurt all year long. I was skiing, and luckily it just dumped and wouldn't stop dumping snow all winter in Utah. When it was soft, I felt fine, but when it was hard, I was like, man, this hurts. But I started feeling really good lately, and I got in the weight room a couple weeks or a week ago, and I was like, wow, feeling good. Maybe I'll start working out again. But I hike and run and bike, and that's all I've really kind of been doing, keeping it low impact on the body. And now I'm feeling good. Maybe I'll start ramping some stuff up. But I've just been enjoying being with my kids. We have a home in Jackson, Wyoming, and in Park City, and I just roam around the mountains. And I'm gonna go climb the Grand beginning of September. I've done that a few times. I was just backpacking in Alaska Basin out there. I enjoy water skiing, but mostly it's just the kids. I love my daughters. I love exposing them to the world and seeing them learn and gain confidence and become better humans.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll edit this out part here, Ryan. Would you like us to direct people somewhere,
Oh,
like to your training camps, or is there anything that
no,
we can
that's
help
sorry.
promote for
Thank
you?
you. Other things I have going, the American Downhiller vest turned into a brand. We run ski kid camps, Sauce Fe, Mammoth Mountain, California. There's one out east in Okemo. We run in the middle of the winter. It's growing and growing. We have soft goods, hats, shirts, whatever it is that's sold on there. That's a lot of fun. Um, and I've been juggling school. I did this transition to business course at Tuck, which is Dartmouth's business branch, and I'm going to go to this crossover to business at Harvard in September. So that'll be fun. It's going to be a 6-month program. I only have to be there for a few days, but then everything's online after that. And just kind of figuring out that next phase. So um,
Nice.
I've always been. I started a company called Fantasy Ski Racer. It's a little.
Hmm.
It's defunct right now, but I could resurrect it. A lot of people got pretty bent at me. They're like claiming we were cheating and stuff. I'm like, cheating? Like what? It's a free fantasy pick'em game that nobody receives anything. Like anyway, we were manually entering all the results, and we did create. It's been a lot of fun. We created a web scraping system to make it all automatic, but then Fist changed their website, and um, we were doing everything manually, and people were getting mad at us. And I'm just like, dude, I don't. This is a free thing out of love. Like, chill out, people. But I may get motivated and resurrect that. Um, and a lot of my partners want to keep working with me. Spider, Sundance, POC, Fisher, Cliff Bar, and I'm going to be pursuing a bunch of different aspects of skiing this winter. So if you want to follow me at Steven_Nyman on Instagram and Twitter, I'll be posting stuff on there. And um, what else? Yeah, I'm gonna pursue a lot more backcountry stuff, family stuff. I have some ideas. I've been talking to Quiet Cat, which is like this e-bike company. It's probably like a sin to you guys. You're like, huff it in there. But I'll take a e-bike into some remote mountains and then scale that with my skis and ski down and yeah, some fishing stuff with the Quiet Cat. So that'll be fun. But still living a good life, just not risking my life as much.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, thanks for helping us understand a little bit of a different perspective. Maybe this one's a little bit further away from trail running and ultra running, but I think that we got some good lessons to learn here. I think one of the golden nuggets I came away with is rest and recovery is not only good for rehabilitation, but also injury prevention. So
And food,
just don't go out
food
there and
is
push
massive.
too much.
Eat good food.
Yeah.
It's not that
Good
complex.
Well,
Everybody
thank you, Stephen.
overanalyzes all this stuff, and I don't know. I saw some of my teammates. They all went to the keto thing. I don't know what you feel. You're long and slower, but we're sprinters. We have this spike in energy, and they used to down cokes in the right before or shoot pixie sticks before they raced, and they were crushing people, and just like to get that spike of energy. Then they all shifted this keto thing, and they weren't good. They all kind of faded off, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe endurance is different, but to me, I just think well-rounded, high-quality food. Eat according to the rainbow, all kinds of different colors of foods, and I'm not anti-carb, but it's just quality of stuff, and understand your body, what you react well with, and that's it. Be aware.
I like
Good,
the
good.
sounds of it. In my running pack is going to be a Coke and a pixie stick, and then I'm ready for anything.
Just mix that with butter. Make it don't have to shoot up that fast.
Do they still make pixie sticks?
I don't know. I'm going to go searching for it, though. It sounds good.
You can find them on Amazon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Stephen, for your time. We really appreciate it. It's good catching up with you.
Nice to see you again, Scott. Nice to meet you guys.
Hey, thanks.
Go out and run.
Mas.